Welcome to the Ayn Rand Fan Club. I'm Scott Schiff along with William Swig. William, how are you today?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
Good, good. We've got a barn buster of an episode. I don't know who's going to try to block or sue us after this one, but we have enough Peikoff news. We were able to make a whole episode about it.
Right. So there are some recent events, including Leonard's 92nd birthday party. We want to cover that and the reactions to it and some of the gossip, having being said in like from Yaron Brook and others. There's also um, the gossip from James Valliant about Leonard souring on Donald Trump. So we want to cover that issue. We also want to visit the recording that was leaked between Leonard Peikoff and his daughter Kira. We haven't covered that. That was leaked several months ago, and we're just now getting around to it. And I hope you stick around for that segment because I will be identifying the leaker. And I have not told Scott who it is yet, so he's going to be surprised.
Should be quite an episode. Well, good. Let's break into it. I think, at least one interesting aspect of this is the differing views we've had on what Leonard thinks of Trump. And the reason it comes up is partially because back in April, over 6 months ago now, Leonard told James Valliant one day, had to do with Ukraine or something, that he had soured on Trump. And it was big enough news that that day, Yaron Brook actually came out and talked about it on his show.
I guess the piece of news that I wanted to give you, which is really fitting for the show right now, that is, it's appropriate for the show, is what I read on Facebook about an hour ago. I mean, literally an hour ago, I think. I read this on James Valliant's website. This is the Leonard Peikoff Study Appreciation Group that James Valliant runs. And I'm just going to read you what he wrote. And he wrote, Leonard Peikoff has, quote, soured, unquote, on Trump officially, and says he would not have written about him as he did had he known what we now do. Now, I don't know if I really have to say anything other than, anyway, some of us knew. Some of us knew. But yeah, I think that's great news. The fact that Leonard Peikoff changed his mind, the fact that he's willing to admit publicly that he changed his mind at 91, he continues to be admirable in that regard. Admirable. So good for Leonard. I'm glad he changed his mind. I think that's good. I think it's good for objectivism. I think it's good for all of us.
So again, that
Just
was
so
breaking news from April. And I mean, it was obvious Yaron wanted to say, I told you so. But, thinking it's good for objectivism is important because I think it goes to why some people in the movement would want to keep recycling this one comment from April to try to portray Leonard as still being anti-Trump now.
Well, it's making a mountain out of a molehill, in my opinion. I mean, first of all, let me share I have the screenshot of James's post. So that's what Yaron Brook read, and that's what James posted on April 29th. So this little post, which is essentially just James gossiping, is what everyone is now taking as the gospel, of Leonard Peikoff. James is like the mouthpiece for Leonard Peikoff now. And it's weird how Yaron Brook just takes this as fact. It's like, if Leonard wants to tell us something, he has a website, he can record something and have his people publish it. He doesn't need to go through James Valliant. So first of all, I don't accept this new method of hearing from Leonard. I don't accept what James Valliant gossips it's not going to be taken as fact from me. So it's as if Leonard said nothing, basically. I don't care what James Valliant says in regard to passing along Leonard Peikoff's thoughts.
Well,
so let me
as
just
we'll
stop.
see, it's more the issue that it keeps coming up over and over again, even now. So Leonard's 92nd birthday party was a couple of weeks ago, and they had a big party in San Diego, and everyone was there. Valliant was kind of the host. We saw David Harriman there. We saw Yaron Brook there. He didn't think he was getting invited at first, but he and the ARI guys were there. Do you have the what James wrote about the party?
He says, "What a wonderful celebration of Leonard Peikoff's 92nd birthday we had yesterday. A big thank you to everyone who joined us, including Yaron Brook, Tal Safani, Alon Giorno, Nikos. I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name.
All those people.
Simon Fetterman. Yeah. And you notice there's like 6 people from ARI there at least. There's Michael Leibowitz, David Harriman. And he says, and especially the guy who pulled it all together, Jameson Peikoff, along with so many more. A cast big enough for a C.B. DeMille epic. And it was epic fun." Jameson Peikoff, is that the first time you've heard him use Peikoff's last name? Because that's the first time I've seen it.
So this is Grace's son that they're referring to. Used to be Grace and Jameson Davis. And I guess over time, Peikoff adopted him. This man is in his 30s, but apparently, it's a little odd for him to be taking the last name.
Why doesn't he have his mother's or his father's last name? Why is an adult man taking on his stepfather's last name? It's really weird. The other thing I noticed about that post is Valliant refers to the people there as a cast. He says a cast big enough for a C.B. DeMille epic, as if
I'm
they're
ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille.
As if they're actors pretending to be something, pretending to be Leonard's friends. It's like it seems like Leonard's surrounding himself now with fake family and fake friends.
Well, I don't know if that's fair. I mean, if anything, there were people clamoring for an invitation to this thing. I thought it was interesting. You also have a picture of Leonard and Yaron seeing each other for the first time. And David Harriman is right there in the shot with them. This James Valliant was nice enough to share these pictures from the party. But I'm just fascinated that, how all these sanction rules work. If you're not supposed to talk to Harriman, was it okay to be at the same party as Harriman? Or I guess because Peikoff was there, it didn't matter. And, people weren't talking politics, apparently, as we'll find out in these later clips. But you can see that tall one standing there is Harriman.
Yeah, so that's Harriman on the right. And then we see the back of Yaron, and he's talking to Leonard. So what I find interesting about this is that in a later clip, we're going to hear Yaron say some negative things about David Harriman. And he also says that he tells people negative things to their face. So he doesn't go behind their back and do it. He'll tell them what he thinks straight to their face. So I was wondering if he said all those negative things to Harriman at the party, said, "Oh, you're a disappointment," or whatever the names he called him. I forget all the names. Or some pretty negative
can
ones.
say he was being deferential to Leonard. He was Leonard's guest, and so he didn't want to start there. But Yaron did talk about going to the party, and even though he's not sure if they've officially made up.
Glad to see you and Leonard patch things up. I don't know if we've patched things up. I don't know exactly what's going on, but I was invited to the birthday party, and I was there, and we had some pleasant conversation. But have we patched things up? I just don't know. I don't know where I stand. Put it that way. But yes, I was at the birthday party. I see there's another question about that. Where is it? What can you tell us about the party? How's Leonard? You know, I don't want to talk a lot about it. I mean, I don't go to these parties in order to then, you know, tell you how I schmooze with Leonard and to get social credit for it, which a lot of people do.
So
it's not a party if Yaron's not throwing the other guests under the bus.
yeah, well, he has a habit of doing that. He has a habit of entertaining people in his life and then afterward telling you what he really thinks of them. So I don't know. He doesn't go to, he says he doesn't go to these parties to schmooze and have social credit, or, you know, talk about them. But then he proceeds to talk about the party, and it sounds like he wants you to know like all the little details and stuff. So I don't know why, you know, why is he talking about it if he doesn't go there to reveal private events and information?
He's like, you know, everyone else is there for the wrong reasons, but I'm here for the right reasons. It's just now I will say, you know, in this whole Kira Leonard thing, he was on Kira's side enough that, you know, he said Leonard hadn't been talking to him over it. And that's kind of why he's like, will he call me? But you know, I get there are some people who took Kira's side. I didn't. I took Leonard's side. And I have to say, it's one thing to take the side that Leonard is under undue influence, but to take that view and then still go to the party, it's kind of letting Kira down. It's like, you know, he's not with allies like your own.
Well, there could be all kinds of reasons Yaron went that don't involve that. But maybe he really just wanted to see Leonard again and try to rekindle some relationship. That's understandable.
Sure.
He could also be going there as like a little bit of a spy, trying to see what's going on. That if I were in his position, that's why I would go. I'd be like rifling through the bedroom and see if there's any like secret cameras and things, you know. But I don't know like why he would go there and not confront Leonard about certain things, you know, because if he's really worried that Leonard's losing it, and in regards to Trump or his daughter, you know, that would be the first thing on my mind if I went there, and I would talk to him about it. And he even says, I don't know if we have that clip or not, if we've already played it, but Leonard ribbed him about Trump, started challenging him on Trump, and then
yeah, I've got that clip next. After saying that Leonard seemed frail and weak, Yaron does say that Leonard still gave him a hard time about Trump.
He's still funny. His long-term memory is pretty good. It's stories about Ayn Rand. He talked about, he did a little thing on music, on ragtime, which is his latest thing that he's into, the latest artistic value that he's pursuing, which is great. What else do I want to say? You know, he he's aware enough to want to kind of poke me and try to get me to argue with him about Trump. I didn't fall for it. So he knows my position on Trump, and I didn't think that was the place in which to hash out our differences. But yeah, so it was pleasant. It was a nice event. It's sad to see him so weak, but yeah, that's where we are. I think you could say he still backs Trump. I mean, that's the impression he gave me. But it could be, you know, but Trump has gone pro-Putin again, so that could sway Leonard in another direction.
So Leonard wanted to argue with Yaron, and Yaron backed away. Maybe he chickened out. He didn't feel like he could handle himself in a party situation and have a polite, civil conversation or argument. You know, maybe his TDS would have kicked in and he would have blown up at the party.
Yeah, kicked out of the party.
Yeah.
He says Leonard knows my view about Trump. Yeah, that's why he was giving you a hard time about it.
Yeah, why does he think Leonard was arguing? So here, another thing I want to say is that here we have Leonard, who probably doesn't have much intellectual stimulation during the day in regards of people challenging his positions. Because, I mean, unless James Valliant is there debating him all day long, he probably doesn't have anyone serious to talk to who will challenge him on Trump. So here we have Yaron Brook at his party and refusing to argue, refusing to have a little back and forth. And it seems like Yaron is failing his role here. Failing.
I didn't fall for that. What was Leonard going to do if he went along?
Yeah, so Leonard was trying to set a trap. Yaron was worried about falling into Leonard's trap. I mean, Leonard is 92 years old, according to Yaron, and that's an issue. So, if he's not worried about this frail old man, why is he worried about falling into some trap? Just debate the guy. The guy wants to argue with you about Trump.
But so, I will say that I give Yaron credit for basic objectivity, just for admitting that, yeah, I saw Leonard at this party, and even from a few minutes, it's obvious he still backs Trump.
Yeah, I guess that much was obvious in the conversation they had. So what are we to make of this whole souring quote or gossip? Now We've got the gossip. Now we've got gossip from Yaron that's challenging the gossip from James Valliant. So,
and I want to get to that clip of Valliant talking about it after the party. But first, we've got this clip of the last clip from this show of Yaron can't help himself and still tries to get the best of Leonard, even as he didn't engage him, and talks about it being because of age.
All buddies ribbing each other a little is exactly right. And, I mean, I'll say this, take it for what it is, but I think he knows that if we actually got into it, that I'm right, or I would win in a actual debate between the two of us. So I think he knows that, but it doesn't prevent him from ribbing me and wanting him to know he disagrees. So it's the way it is, right? All right, but again, he's 92, and you have to take that into account.
Well, isn't this a little absurd, what he's saying about Leonard knowing Yaron is right? If Leonard knew that Yaron is right, then what is he doing taking the opposite stance?
Why would he rib him?
Why would he say that he likes Trump if he knows that Yaron is right and Trump is evil? He says it doesn't make any sense. Obviously, Leonard disagrees and thinks that Yaron's wrong. So why would he think that Yaron would win in a debate or anything? Leonard's probably got plenty of things to say that are positive about Trump still, and that's why he supports Trump. And even if he did tell James Valliant that he soured on Trump, it sounds like, from what James is saying, that it was on one particular issue or maybe a couple issues, but in general, he still supports Trump. So why would he know that Yaron is right? Yaron's not right.
I wonder, even in Yaron's case, how much of it is, if he talks to Leonard about it, then he's got to listen and take into account the positive things that Leonard would say. And going to your... Go ahead.
Well, I don't know if Yaron's capable of doing that, but it does sound like it's a little bit of maybe psychological projection on Yaron's part. Maybe Yaron is the one who knows Leonard's right, but Yaron just can't admit it.
It's easier to say he's 92.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. It's like, why would you hold your wrong position if you know the other person's right? It doesn't make any sense.
It's a way of saying, I'm still better than Leonard, even though I wouldn't debate him about it.
Yeah, and it's also Yaron trying to get into Leonard's brain. I mean, I hate it when just with no serious examples or evidence, you just flippantly say, "Oh, I know what this person's thinking, and I know what Leonard thinks. Leonard thinks I'm right." It's just crazy.
Well, speaking of, so after the party and after this show, Leibowitz had James Valiant on to talk about it. And within talking about it, James goes back to the same April story about him souring on Trump. I mean, the way Valiant keeps restarting his sentences to me is an indication that he's thinking too much about framing versus what happened.
Back in months ago, we were talking about I remember once he was just fuming mad about the way Zelensky was dressed down at the White House and Trump's seeming betrayal of Ukraine. That's what triggered him. He was always opposed to, say, tariffs and stuff, and he didn't quite realize, I think, the extent of Trump's aggressiveness with tariffs would be, and he certainly didn't anticipate. And now with even Hamas and stuff and Trump. So the point is that while he's highly critical, and the point is, I really soured on Trump, Leonard told me in his breakfast room. And I said, well, can I tell people that? He said, absolutely, you can tell people that I've soured on Trump. And I posted that what he's ribbing Yaron about is he has heard and read some objectivists who were, hey, we should have voted for Harris. Now, on that point, I think if the election were still held today, there ain't no way he'd vote for Harris. And so if you're going to force him on something, would he say, who's slightly better? I'm not going to get into that.
I just don't know why after 6 months, the only story that James wants to share with us from Leonard is this one day he said he'd soured on Trump. He's like, oh, can I tell people about that? But why doesn't he ever ask, what Leonard thinks of Trump, like since the Hamas deal, for example? So, and David Harriman, who was also at the birthday party, per the picture, reported in a post, I have spoken to Leonard Peikoff recently, and he strongly endorses Trump. So
well, I think that James Valliant is doing a lot of selective sharing here. He's done. Why doesn't he share all the positive things that Peikoff might be saying about Trump? It seems like there is this bias towards anything negative he's saying, and that's what we're hearing. There seems to be this attempt to focus the attitude that Peikoff has. Because it was such a positive attitude Peikoff displayed towards Trump. Now there's this attempt to shift it to a negative direction, as if it really matters. First of all, why are we getting all this gossip? I mean, it's very annoying.
It matters if we're getting conflicting stories,
but it's just annoying to get all this gossip from James Valliant. Like, why is he sharing all this crap? These are just conversations he's having in private. Does Leonard really want to pass along his thoughts via James Valliant's mouth? I mean, this is not a sign of a healthy intellectual. A healthy intellectual isn't going to be using a stand-in or a proxy to convey his messages to the world. It's easy enough for Peikoff to just record a little statement and have someone put it on the web.
I mean, I don't have a problem with that. I don't mind him using James. And I said this in a post, James doesn't owe any updates on Leonard. But to the extent, you're choosing to do it, don't just keep telling the same story from April 29th about this one day when other people have seen Leonard since and reported that he supports Trump. Even Yaron Brook, of all people.
Yeah, it's not convincing anymore because it's old news. It's like apparently Leonard Peikoff's opinions change with the wind.
Well, I don't even know if they changed with the wind. We don't know, but we're only getting one day in April.
Yeah, well, if you sour on Trump because he does something to Zelensky one day, and then he treats Zelensky better the next day, and now you're sweet on him. So I mean, it's a sweet and sour mentality is kind of ridiculous. It's
But
not objective.
even the using "I've soured on Trump" is he just means he's mad at him that day. It doesn't necessarily mean he's totally turned on Trump, and that's definitely not what David and Yaron were saying as well.
Yeah, it's also like saying they use the term change his mind, it's as if Leonard has changed his mind. What has Leonard changed his mind on? He's
Right.
like slightly less enthusiastic now about Trump. That's
Just
changing
because
his
I'm
mind.
critical about things Trump may do doesn't mean I've changed my mind on him overall. And, the fact that I'm glad Harris lost.
And why is Leonard fuming mad, according to James Valliant? Just because of something Trump says about Zelensky that drives Leonard into this fuming rage? I mean, it's not believable. It's why would he get so emotional about something political like this?
I
It's
can
kind of ridiculous.
believe that he was upset with Trump one day over a policy, and he probably is aware that James is anti-Trump and was at least to some extent trying to be like, oh yeah, I've soured on him now too. And just but it didn't reflect like his true attitude towards Trump. It was just him being angry for a day. And it's one thing even to report that on the day, but then to only report that and make that the only day you report on 6 months later is where it's context dropping at the very least. And part of this party was about James becoming Leonard's new gatekeeper and controlling. And in fact, even though Harriman came out and said that all this about Peikoff supporting it, he had to come out and do his own correction later, presumably because his relationship with Peikoff was threatened. But he says in the correction, because my statement was brief and unclear, I owe a heartfelt apology to James Valliant. He has been accused of lying about Dr. Peikoff's views. I never anticipated anyone would misinterpret my statement in that way. James Valliant had a discussion with Dr. Peikoff about his criticism of Trump, and Leonard himself approved the phrase soured on Trump. Everything else that James Valliant said is true, and I have the greatest respect for him. I also believe everything I said is true. There is no contradiction. And that's fine. David said that, but even in that, he to show that he understands, he still quotes in October this statement from April. And he says, everything I said is true, including what he said about Peikoff strongly supporting Trump. So it was just him kind of, realizing that Valliant was the main gatekeeper. He didn't want to be seen as calling Valliant a liar, but, just still using that soured on Trump phrase as if Peikoff hasn't had a thought since April.
Well, it's Peikoff's fault. He's not giving us his opinion in his own voice, which he could easily do. Instead, he's letting proxies speak for him.
In some ways, he's always done that. It's not even an age thing.
Well, I don't know that he's always done that.
He's made little statements, and people would come back to read the tea leaves. And I mean, it happened on Trump to some extent.
But he's given if he gives a statement, then it's his words. He's put his signature to it, or he goes on video and gives a statement.
Yeah.
So I don't mind if he has an account on YouTube and he posts a video of him telling us how he soured on Trump. Then we can judge it in his own voice, in his own speech.
Let me tell you, if he soured on Trump, David Harriman would not have been at that birthday party.
Well, I don't know. So I question who invited all these people. Was it Leonard who invited all these people himself, or Grace, or Valliant? Because it seems weird that all these people who disagreed with Peikoff on a few different things are invited to his party. It's almost as if it's a show, they're a cast of characters like James Valliant alluded to, and they're playing a role to pretend like Leonard is not isolated from his real friends.
That was a goal of the party, that he's not mentally incompetent. He gave a speech at an event in, I think, LA a week later at one of Rosie's events. And so, that is part of it too. It's like, how incompetent can you be if you're giving seminars?
Well, if you're giving a little prepared remark on ragtime, I mean, I don't see that as something very challenging.
I understand that. I'm just saying that is, I can agree that the part of the party was to, show that Leonard is making his own decisions. And I think, frankly, the longer he lives, I mean, it seems more apparent. We're going to get into the tape in just a few minutes as well. But I do
hold on. One more point about that. So inviting all these people to the party can serve the function of serve a couple functions. So it shows that Leonard is not being isolated from people, but that's just a party atmosphere. It's not like these people have regular access, personal, private access to Leonard, because Yaron was saying he doesn't even know what their situation is. He doesn't know if they've patched things up, so even Yaron Brook, who is probably one of the closest intellectuals to Leonard, or used to be, doesn't know his place. All he got was an invitation to this party, and then he wasted the opportunity to have an argument with Leonard, or actually talk to Leonard about serious issues.
Well, and then I don't know that a party was the best place to do it, even though they could have talked about Trump, especially after Peikoff brought it up, but I don't know if they wanted to bring up Kira at the party or why they stopped talking.
Well, you got to take the opportunities that you're given. And so if that's not the place to do it, what is the place? When are you going to have an opportunity to do it? And regarding the other issue is it could show that Leonard is mentally competent, but that wasn't really the whole issue. The issue was he was being unduly influenced, and that requires just a deficient competency. So there could be a level of competency that he lacks that makes him unduly influenced. He doesn't have to be a complete vegetable. Obviously he can still talk to people and have intelligent conversations with people, but is he capable of handling serious issues in his life, like finances and things, without being unduly influenced?
I mean, who rented the throne for him? Was it him?
That was
he unduly influenced?
It's almost as if these people were brought there to kiss the ring of the king.
The funny thing is, I think it was the day of the No Kings protest.
Yeah, in light of the No Kings protest, in light of everyone calling Trump a dictator, here we have Leonard acting like a king. It's kind of absurd.
He maybe he's honoring it's a homage to Trump. But I want to bring up some other stuff that happened because Andy Bernstein brought up some stuff about the debate. He got into it. Yaron made some comments about them, and people should shun Andy and David, even though we gave Peikoff a pass and the whole donor class a pass. But then in response to Andy's thing, I was just like, hey, I understand where James is coming from, but we're over. We understand the story that happened from 6 months ago. And then, I don't know, Valliant may not have seen it, but he replied on the same post. And I just have to read this because I had to parse the sentences. So he says, first, after I related the current debate to him, Leonard Peikoff expressed astonishment at how much emphasis is placed on his authority. Okay, that's one sentence about the present. And that's, the current debate. Then he does this second sentence that has zero connection to the first, even if there's trying to be a subtle one. He says, quote, he has become downright angry at Trump since he became president, and he asked me to make that known. So he's still talking about that April 29th conversation.
Yeah, well, he's maybe alluding to that or some other private conversation you had.
He hasn't, but it's just like he's trying to almost imply, if you're not reading that and taking the sentences completely apart from each other, it said, I related the current debate to him. He expressed astonishment at how much his emphasis is placed. He has become downright angry at Trump since he became president. When are you talking about? Are you just talking about April 29th? Because it sounds like the exact same scenario, and it's like the only day that he's interested in talking about. And I just, anytime we start hearing this Soward story, it's more of an attempt to paint Leonard as not supporting Trump versus both David Harriman and Yaron Brook, people that are not friendly with each other. Yaron was telling people not to follow David Harriman, and yet both of them could tell immediately on seeing Peikoff that he still very much supports Trump.
Well, even James Valliant says Leonard would probably vote for Trump, still vote for Trump. So it's a little odd that he emphasizes Leonard being angry at Trump, but maybe that's the case. And maybe he's telling the truth. Maybe Leonard is angry about one or two things Trump has done, and that's certainly possible.
Yeah.
But it's also not very flattering to Leonard. So I question why a good friend to Leonard would be revealing these things. These are private issues, private conversations of a 92-year-old man who's on the verge of death. Why would you put all this?
He's on the verge of death. His old girlfriend Alice lived to be 99.
Okay, but he's on oxygen and he has all these problems. So heart problem.
That's life in the 90s. He had a heart attack in like 92 or something.
Okay, well he's not going to live much longer. The issue is why are you exposing all this private stuff about an old elderly man who's clearly losing his mental faculties and his physical faculties? Just have your private conversation and leave it alone. You don't need to.
To be fair, he's only quoting one conversation. It's not a bunch of stuff he's telling us about Leonard. It's one time where Leonard's views happen to match up politically with his.
Okay, but I don't know everything James has been saying. I don't follow him very closely, so he might be relating other conversations elsewhere. But he is bringing up, this one piece of information that he thinks is important. I think it's irrelevant gossip. It's hearsay. Wouldn't even be accepted in a court of law. So if you're taking James Valliant's word as gospel, you're making a mistake. And you shouldn't, in my opinion, you should just treat it as Leonard hasn't been saying anything, because he hasn't. He's just been talking.
He has been saying things to the people at his party. He said things to Yaron. He said things to Harriman.
It's all gossip. It's all secondhand hearsay.
That's fine, but there's no reason for Yaron to make it up, especially with how important he thinks it is to objectivism that Leonard changed his mind.
They don't even have to be making it up. They could be misremembering, giving their own biased slant because they're obsessed with the brainwashing, and they don't really understand what's going on. They don't understand the nuance in Leonard's speech. So it could just be they're misinterpreting. I don't know. Leonard has a habit of recording people in private. So why doesn't he record everything and then just release it? He record his conversations he has at the party and just release it.
He was giving Yaron a hard time about Trump as soon as he saw it. So I don't think that's being made up.
Sorry,
But be that as it may, we'll let the people in the comment section talk about the veracity of everyone and who's doing right. I don't mind. Again, my point is James has a right to not tell us anything at all. It's just that I want to hear a second story.
I don't want to hear any gossip. I want the gossip to stop. I think it's very bad for the movement to have this gossip culture at the top. We shouldn't be gossiping about Leonard Peikoff. Just leave the man alone. Let him have his privacy. And if you ask him, oh, can I reveal this to the world? And he says yes, you should understand that yes is coming from an elderly old man who probably doesn't even understand the consequences of what he's doing.
No, I think he probably felt mad that day, but he didn't think to say, now, James, I want you to go out and tell everyone I've changed back on Trump.